years ago, the Southern Poverty Law Center bankrupted the Klan and later recovered millions from neo-Nazi groups, with lawsuits representing victims of violence. But Tuesday, the tables turned. The Justice Department charged the organization with fraud for allegedly misleading donors and lying to financial institutions by paying members of violent extremist groups millions of dollars to act as informants.
The SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
A representation is made that the quality of legal services to be provided are greater than the legal services of other lawyers. I'm Harry Still. I'm a retired gentleman down in Daphne, Alabama. I'm joined today by Brandon Mosley, reporter and content manager at the Alabama Gazette. How are you today, Brandon?
I'm doing fine, Harry. How are you?
And we have a special guest today, Tim Wadsworth, Alabama House District 14, a Republican from Gadsden area.
No, I live in Arley, Alabama, but I represent Winston, Walker, Jefferson, and Coleman counties.
So we know your wife. She's running for Attorney General, and she's been on a couple of
but she's running for lieutenant governor.
I do that all the time. Lieutenant governor. Like I said, we've had her on twice. You'd think I'd remember that. And of course, Tim, this says you're on the Children and Senior Advocacy Committee, Jefferson County Legislative Delegation, the Judiciary Committee, Local Legislation, Public Safety and Homeland Security, and the Rules Committee, which intrigues the hell out of me. Brandon and I know that's one of the more powerful committees. If you can't get it out of the rule, if you can't follow the rules, you can't get it to the floor. You can't get it out of committee.
If rules doesn't want it on the floor, it's hard to get it there.
Absolutely.
And so we always try to connect people. And you're telling me you're not in Gadsden, but last podcast we had a lady on whose cats were eaten by dogs up in Knockalilla Farm. So anyway, we'll skip that part and get right on into the big story in Alabama this week. A federal grand jury returned an indictment against the Southern Poverty Law Center Tuesday on several charges related to allegedly secretly funding hate groups like the Ku Klux Klan. So Brandon, you and I've talked about this a couple times. I did my ancestry during the plague, and I was thinking that maybe, just maybe, one of my ancestors, you got like 50 great-great-grandparents, right? Yeah. I was thinking maybe one of them's a Union soldier. Not every single one of them a Confederate. Can't find, not even anybody that was a cook in the Union Army. So anyway, the idea that there's a bunch of white supremacists in this state, and I don't know them, and I'm not aware of where they operate, and this is kind of, one of the things I keep up with. I've been saying for years, this is a bunch of bull. I've been to every cockfight and moonshine still, and you know what I mean? Illegal chicken fights. I know about them. I don't always attend.
It always amazed me that it would be towns that I'm familiar with where I'm sort of aware of where the drugs are sold, who's raising the illegal chickens for the chicken fights.
Right.
And, some Poverty Law Center would say there's a dangerous Klan group here. And I'm like, wow, that's so undercover. I don't know anything about it.
They must be burning little bitty crosses like that big, because I've never seen one. They're
hiding out pretty good, but SPLC knew where everybody was.
Well, I represent Winston County, and it's called the Free State of Winston. And in Winston County, there were more Union soldiers than there were Confederate soldiers in Winston County.
Winston County was Republican since 1863. I mean, it's the most Republican place that never was a yellow dog Democrat in that whole damn county. That is absolutely
right now
true.
There's about 99% Republican and 1% Democrat in Winston County.
So the Southern Poverty Law Center paid $70,000 to the leader of the American Nazi Party, a former KKK member and Aryan Nation director, the same man they'd listed as an extremist on their own website, Paul Mullet. He's got very short hair to have a mullet.
They are claiming through their little intermediaries in the press that this was them paying for intelligence. But I mean,
Brandon, when it's 5 guys in a mobile home on the outskirts of Argo and they're spending $200,000 a year on flyers with racist material on it, you're funding the whole damn operation if you're giving them $2 million a year. And then you go to the Israelis and say they're going to blow up a bunch of synagogues, so we need $20 million to pay $2 million for intelligence. It's a scam. It's fraud.
Of course, the people they gave money to seem to rise through the ranks because, let's be honest, it's like politics. If you give me money where I can be out there and entertaining all my voters and having the coolest parties and whatnot, I'm going to get promoted because I'm hosting all the events. So I think that sort of became what happened with their intelligence network of moles, is that, hey, we've had a great party at Bob's house. Let's vote him in as Grand Dragon.
Right.
I don't want to say that's what went down, but, and of course, in Bob's shit, every time they have a meeting, Bob reports it because he wants to get paid.
It's my understanding the last real Klan meeting was held in Tuscaloosa, Alabama in 1962, and it disbanded.
No, that's not true.
Well, the real political Klan where people that were governors and things like that were involved.
Well, yeah, that. But I mean, I do remember, when Don Black ran for mayor of Birmingham, out Klan Grand Wizard, and then of course Richard Arrington won, which probably didn't help because Don was running as a Klan guy on that same election. He moved his organization to about 2 miles from my grandfather's farm. So, growing up, we had to drive to get to the interstate through them, all in their white sheets. Like some of them in camo, some of them up holding rifles up in the air while they burned a cross out there at the crossroads.
I never saw. I've lived 52 years in the most Republican mixed place, Baldwin County, the mixing pot, and
you're like
I've
on the
never
beach, dude.
seen.
Come on, that's not
never
real
seen
Alabama.
any
That's
of that.
The beach guys.
Okay, well, let me tell you this: the first people to ever be prosecuted under the federal hate crime statute, the church, where they burned a church down, were 3 19-year-olds from right here in Baldwin County. It happened in 1997, and there's a book about it called "The Ballad of Little River." And it's worth your time.
I think it was 1982 in Mobile where like 4 Klansmen lynched some poor black teenager, which.
It was the last lynching in the United States happened in Mobile. That's right. Well,
I mean, this is a thing in our past. But my point is, if they're still operating somewhere in St. Clair County, I don't think there's any way they could be, and I wouldn't be aware of it.
Well, so let's talk about this real quick.
I mean, again, then Southern Poverty Law Center shows up. There's pictures of like 6 people. Okay.
So Confederate Memorial Day is Monday, Brandon?
Yes.
And
it will be a state holiday.
Okay. And so it originated locally by the Ladies Memorial Association to care for the graves of the Confederate dead. And anyway, the important part that we need to get to on the CIA's official Wikipedia page is that the third stanza says, the Southern Poverty Law Center has condemned the holiday as part of a campaign of racial terror on the part of white supremacists. An organized propaganda campaign created to instill fear and ensure the ongoing oppression of formerly enslaved people. Now, does that make you mad as it does me, knowing what a bunch of lying, lawyers they are, Mr. Wadsworth? As a fellow member of the bar, They're right across the damn street from the Alabama State Bar committing fraud on the whole world.
I try not to get emotional on the news, but I mean, it's my experience. Confederate Memorial Day is the day where grandparents go to the cemeteries like their grandparents did, putting flowers on their grandparents' graves. That's all it is. It's not, I mean, I don't see Klansmen out there. I don't see, M16s and AR-15s, I mean, pressing anybody. It's just remembering the people who lay down their lives, rightly or wrongly, for the state of Alabama from 1861 to 1865.
Anyway, that's my namesake. My name's Harry Bartlett Still the Third. I'm really Bartlett Still the Fifth. And of course, we're ashamed of that because of the Southern Poverty Law Center. But anyway, he was a Confederate cavalryman, and there's his muster roll, and along with a picture of his grave. Does anybody see any rebel flags around? No. That's been appropriated. We can't have that anymore. But we should be ashamed because this is propaganda, right? So let's move on.
24 members of my family fought for the Confederacy. 8 of them, including 2 ancestors, died for the Confederacy. And I had 4 family members, including 1 ancestor, who fought for the Union up in Kentucky.
I have none.
I think that's pretty typical of Southerners all across Alabama.
Okay, so let's talk about this image here. The House Freedom Caucus says, "Dear Deep State, get a warrant. Sincerely, the American people." So we're going to go down the rabbit hole of Brandon's side of the street, where he says, well, if you're out in public, you don't have any expectation of privacy. This is going to help the police solve all our crimes. As a matter of fact, it helps solve a pre-crime. We'll get to that in a minute. So Big Brother coming to town near you, ban flock cameras now in Florida. So I follow this guy on Twitter. He's awesome. Everybody should follow Joel. So Milwaukee cop used flock cameras to trace romantic partner after charged with misconduct for tracing his ex-girlfriend and her former lover. The city of Gulf Shores activates 87 flock cameras in an effort to enhance public safety. You think it's going to enhance public safety? London and New Orleans and Bourbon Street are the 2 most surveilled places on earth, and people get stabbed there 30 times a day.
Well, the I will say this: Alabama Legislature passed a bill, and I did not vote for it, that would allow. It was a pilot project that would allow cameras in construction zones that would be able to take a picture of the tag if they're 10 miles over the speed limit. But I think it has constitutional concerns, and I was not for that bill.
Well, and that's kind of where I want to get to that in a minute. We've covered that. Brandon brought it to our attention.
And I interviewed Pamela Casey, who is a district attorney in Blount County, earlier this week. And I asked her about the flock camera issue. And she said that they had a murder in Blount County where, fortunately, the flock camera caught the license plate of the murderer. And when they interviewed the person, he said he wasn't anywhere near the area. Fortunately, thanks to Flock, they knew he was, and so they knew he was lying, and it helped them get a conviction. So it has its uses, obviously.
Okay. Well, let's listen to this story, and of course, this was a product placement by Flock.
To stop a man accused of planning to carry out a mass shooting at a New Orleans festival. Chris Welty reports the FBI says there are no known direct threats to any festivals in the state.
Lauren, Florida deputies haven't said whether Christopher Gillum told them which festival he intended to target. An FBI spokesperson says the agency is working with Louisiana State Police and authorities in Florida and North Carolina. According to the Alamance County Sheriff's Office in North Carolina, Gillum's family reported him missing on Tuesday and told deputies that he had a gun. The Sheriff's Office says Gillum crossed state lines before they could prepare paperwork.
A man traveling with a gun? Oh, shit. We better stop him.
The executive director of Project NOLA, a crime camera network, says he received a high priority alert from North Carolina law enforcement regarding a credible threat to the New Orleans area. Brian Lagarde says that law enforcement agency told him Gillum suffers from PTSD and was believed to be traveling to New Orleans to commit a mass casualty event and engage in, quote, suicide by cop. Police in Florida say they used license plate readers to track Gillum to a hotel in Destin, Florida.
It's the men and women who work on the.
This is the guy from Flock. He's saying it's the men on the street. It's the deputies in the trenches
roads every single day who are using this technology that are really key in making it work. But it is a galvanizing event for us here today to know that we were, even a small part of preventing what could have been just such a mess.
What could have been, Brandon? So what say you about pre-crime? Pre-crime. 1984 has got nothing on 2026.
His penalty will be a lot. If assuming he's convicted of anything, it'll be a whole lot less than if he'd actually shot up a whole bunch of people. So,
yep. So
again,
Florida
he'll probably testify he didn't mean to do anything.
Okay, well, how about this? How about you go to a No Kings rally, and the Pensacola police use the flock cameras to follow your ass all the way home because you had a mask on at the protest. And now you see how it's being used. I don't think anybody ever imagined. And of course, their name's going to go in the master name index. I don't see
wrong with the police collecting intelligence.
On who? On people who protest?
Anyone.
Okay. Well, here's another. Here's a good one for you. Here's a good one for you. $7.5 million funding request for Homeland Security Department aimed at developing high-tech smart glasses to be used by immigration agents. Landed with a thud on Capitol Hill. That means they didn't get around and pay off the right people. They needed. Well, anyway, we'll get to that.
Well, I mean, the Democrats are politicized eyes.
Just so you know what one looks like. When you're driving along and you see this, that is a private company that has entered into a contract with your government, and a private company holds all this information, which is why we don't need a warrant. It's a third party, right? So anyway, these are some people that we've covered in previous episodes. You should go check. Yeah, they were checking out the little kids at the Jewish Community Center in Dunwoody, Georgia. Some guy kept watching the kids inside the gymnasium. And of course, here we go. The citizens of San Jose have gotten together and are suing their government for, creepy, deeply intrusive surveillance system known as the flock camera system. They put 500 up there. It's really important. And then, we've already done this in Alabama, and I'm not going to beat you up about it because it was last session, but we're talking about House Resolution 8250 at the federal level. And, of course, this is all to protect the children. You're going to have a digital ID so you can log into Google or anything else. So we can keep the children safe, not so we can know where you're going. I mean, you got to remember the FBI used to go get, if they were interested in you, they would go to the library and find out which books you checked out. That's all verified. So anyway.
I got to say this.
Yes,
at the end of the day, when you have the Constitution, you can't pick and choose what parts of the Constitution that you want to adhere to. And if the Constitution says something's improper, then we should stay with that.
But the problem is we have all these judges who are interpreting it, and they were all picked by one guy. Lex, what's his name?
Which is what the Constitution says.
Yeah. No, well, okay. Somehow we ended up with 9 Catholics on the Supreme Court. It's not that many, but I mean, it is. So I want everybody to take a look at this. I have nothing to do with it. Let me say that at first. This is a new website that came up called the Baldwin Beat, and this is about how the system that we have set up in the legislature to allow for the reappointment of judges if there's a vacancy. Of course, down here in Baldwin County, it's being played, it's being scammed by our little cabal, our dirty cabal of developer money that has supplanted the good old boy system. Remember, I was one of the good old boys. So anyway,
the governor appoints the judges. Who the governor, listens to on the appointment is up to each governor. We've had the same governor now for like over 9 years,
and that's
going to change next year.
And please don't say anything, Mr. Wadsworth, but Representative Wadsworth. But it is weekend at Bernie's at the governor's office. She has no business appointing anybody or signing anything. So anyway, this is one of our judicial candidates, and he is actually the prosecutor for the city of Bay Minette. He talks all about his experience, and I just want to point out that he's had every opportunity to drop the charges against me that he knows that he can't possibly maintain or get a conviction based on the evidence he has. But because he's running for office, he asked the judge to set my trial on the 21st. Brandon, when is the election? The 19th.
May 19th, but I'm sure that's just a coincidence.
That's just a huge coincidence. Also, do y'all know who Babyface Nelson is?
Before my time, but I'm aware of his criminal history.
You reckon it's his great-grandson? They look just alike. So, deaths and disappearances. Are you familiar with this, Representative? All these scientists and people working at Los Alamos and writing about UFOs have all disappeared off the face of the earth?
I'm not familiar with that.
So, anyway, we're going to talk about one local for a second. Does everybody know that Huntsville, Alabama is a hotbed for, I don't know, everything, technology, biotech, and apparently there was a young lady up here working on anti-gravity. So let's listen to this. Oh, and by the way, just for the record, one of our current county commissioners here in Baldwin County's grandfather was one of the Nazi rocket scientists who worked under Operation Paperclip for NASA. So this is prescient.
Earth-shattering, no pun intended. So Amy worked on this stuff, and she worked down in Huntsville, which means she's working with, like, when she's running her own company, Deef, you're dealing with the government as clients.
Yeah.
You're working on a contractual basis. NASA has a famous base there in Huntsville. This is where a lot of the Operation Paperclip guys went, that does a lot of rocket propulsion stuff. There's been some folklore related, and that's actually that's a really conservative way of saying it. I said folklore, but like some folklore related to UFOs and UAP from down there. The other one you always hear about with that as it pertains to military related.
He's never heard of Gulf Breeze, Florida.
Places or government related places is not just Area 51, but Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, which is a whole kind of separate thing. Did you have something, Deef?
I just wanted to make note that she is dealing with NASA a lot in what she's doing. Okay. They even did pull back in 2020. She was going to be planning to present novel foundational work regarding anti-gravity, but she needed approval from NASA.
Oh.
So it turns out that the first missing scientist is from right here. Have you heard Steve Marshall talk about getting to the bottom of
I believe this will be a federal investigation.
Interesting. Well, I still think they're all here in the secret lair of Dr. No.
I hope they're alive. It doesn't sound good.
So let's do some rapid fire. Man accused of scamming women across the country, known as the TikTok trickster, is back in Baldwin County jail. Yes.
Could we move on to the legislature and what they just finished in the session?
Yeah,
we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Okay.
So next story. Auburn Board of Trustees approves $300 million in upgrades to Jordan-Hare Stadium. They're apparently going to put a Top Golf and a mall in the north end zone, and there's not going to be one more damn seat.
Yeah, Brandon's seat's going to get bulldozed, and we're going to put in premium seating for people that spend more money than I do.
And
but
Brandon and I are both alums. Okay, so the next thing that we have a rendering of is the United States Space Command headquarters at Redstone Arsenal. Isn't that look cool?
That's going to bring a chunk of jobs to North Alabama.
You think there's enough parking around that thing? They might need some more parking. Might I suggest a parking deck while we're spending $3 billion on something?
I mean, given the difficulty of moving around up there now, we might want to consider a light rail. So that maybe we can have satellite parking and they can ride shuttle buses in or something.
So the next issue is what Alabama's building. What will Alabama's $1.2 billion mega prison look like, named after Governor Kay Ivey? This week, an ADOC associate commissioner showed these slides of the prison that look 80% complete. The photo on the right is a minimum security housing area described as an improvement. Surely that's not finished.
It would be hard to build a prison that's not an improvement over the ones we have now.
Or Holman, Kilby. I'm trying to think of all the ones I've been to in the last year. St. Clair.
Limestone.
Whew. Good Lord. So have you been to Holman lately?
Down in Bullitt County.
So the Green Mile at Holman has been condemned. A third of the prison is condemned. I mean, you can't walk under it. It might fall and kill you. So, yeah, I'd say it's an improvement.
Holman and some of these were built before my mother's birth.
And it used to be surrounded by a farm that fed them.
Let me mention this. One of the things that prisons need to have, they need to have a system in place that would kill cell phones that are smuggled into the prison, because when you have people that are in the prison that use those smuggled in cell phones as a in a system where they can extort money from family members, but if they would put a system in place that would kill all cell phones within the prison, I think that would be a big help, and it would help all the family members too.
And it would be it allows them to use the phone to, when one of them sees a prison guard walk by, to notify the ones ahead of them that the guards are coming or that they're not coming. So it essentially gives the prisoners or the gangs running the prisons who have phones tactical control over the prison. So, yeah, I agree with Representative Wadsworth. If there's a system that can kill cell phone signal coming out of that place, we probably need that.
And if we had it, we'd have never seen what was going on.
You have to get federal approval through the FCC in order for that to occur, because I've actually represented people that they would call the family members from the prison and ask them to put money on a card, and they would have their son screaming in the background. And the result is they're extorting money from family members. And I think you've got to put a system in place where they would not be able to make those calls, and having the kill switch inside the prison where nobody can make those phone calls. I think it would be a good thing for family members and all people involved.
So Aaliyah has a device called a Scorpion, and they use it all the time in drug busts. What they do is they set it down by the end of your road, and it fakes your cell phone. It tries to make a handshake it with the strongest signal, and when it makes the handshake, it says, "Are you Harry's phone on the Verizon network?" "Yes." "Are you Verizon Tower?" "I don't know." What's your VIN number, and what are the last 5 calls you made, and all this other stuff. What I'm saying is we intercept stuff all the time without a warrant. It seems like it would be real easy to find out who was using it and put it down. But then again, we'd have never had the expose film that came out this year, the Alabama Solution, if it weren't for the cell phones. And we'd never know that, 5 wardens had resigned and all this other stuff. So anyway, I see both sides of it. They should not have these things. And if we had a secure, safe system where I wasn't worried that people were being stabbed to death and we'd never hear about it, or coming out without cadavers, without organs and all this other stuff. I say let's put a bunch of cameras in there and live stream it.
I think the new prison is going to have more cameras than what they have now. Some of the prisons now were built before cameras were even a thing. So there's angles where you just can't get a camera to it.
So another statewide issue that you might want to chime in on, Baldwin County residents push for a solar moratorium as legal review continues. So there's a big data center that's going in Montgomery. They had to produce some percentage of the power using renewable energy. So because we have a transmission line down here that runs through Baldwin County, and there's some rural property, they want to take 4,000 acres and flatten it and make it a cow pasture with solar panels on it. And
I think the citizens of those areas should be heavily involved and make the decision. I don't think it just should be just the members of the county commission that make those decisions. I think you've got to have public involvement when you're putting in those type of facilities.
Sure. And so anyway, Baldwin County had hired an environmental engineer to do a review of it, and it turns out that they do a bunch of work for Shell Oil Company, who's one of the investors.
Representative Wadsworth, during the session, there was a bill to put a statewide moratorium on solar, and it passed the Senate, but they didn't have enough votes to, by special rule that late in the session, it took like unanimous consent or something to get it out of the Senate, to send it to the House.
It never did come up on the House. It never did come up on the House floor.
Yeah.
Well, you'll recall that I don't know how long you've been in there, but Harry Shivers championed what he called the Stockton Landmark District, and y'all have amended the Constitution for more, or the people have voted to amend the Constitution to create these landmark districts. The legislature assured all these people that it would keep projects like this out, and a couple years later, it turns out it's the thing that's going to keep us from having any zoning to prevent it. So it did exactly the opposite of what we were sold. And I'm one of the people that was sold this thing. And I'm a lawyer, a former planner, and I'm sitting there going, this doesn't do that. This does the opposite. It says you cannot zone this property. And I think to do that, we would have to amend the Constitution again. Anyway, it's a checkmate. This thing's going to get approved, and there's nothing anybody's going to do about it. Let me say that.
The Public Service Commission's already approved it. I don't see how it can be stopped once the state government gave approval to it.
And you know good and well, if Greg Albritton didn't know about this, he would have filibustered and shut down the entire session to defund the Public Service Commission if they had a hearing on a project and somebody on his staff wasn't notified. So this whole thing about we didn't know is a bunch of hooey, a whole bunch of hooey. So let's talk about some federal stuff real quick. A top-level Trump counterterrorism official is under investigation amidst claims she actively looks for sugar daddies to maintain her absorbent lifestyle. That's pretty good. So the Daily Mail says lesbian sex secrets of Kristi Noem's ICE leader. Ex-lover claims jealous rage over men screaming through hotel walls. Anyway, sounds like every other administration we've ever had. So anyway, remember how we're talking about all this gambling money coming into Alabama? So here we go. Everybody remember when Maduro was captured? So a special forces soldier who helped capture him just got arrested for betting on his own mission. Master Sergeant Gannon Ken Van Dyke, active duty at Fort Bragg, wagered $32,000 on Polymarket that Maduro would be out by January. He made 13 bets and won a couple $100,000. And of course, this is an image of Congress watching soldiers get arrested for insider trading. So today, Tom Cotton came out and said that marijuana today is much more potent than it was 10 or 20 years ago, leading to increases in psychosis, antisocial behavior, fatal car crashes. Arkansas don't want more dangerous drugs. And so he's saying, yeah, we shouldn't reschedule. Interesting. He must be in the pocket of the alcohol lobby like a lot of people around here. So the sports gaming syndicate target Alabama voters as national push for legalization intensifies. So here's the question. Is Ledbetter going to call a special session after the election?
No. The legislature, including the speaker, cannot call a special session. Only the governor can call a special session.
Sorry. Well, same question because there's no one at home. So she's going to do what the party folks say. And apparently that's Ledbetter because his buddy, Mr. Raby, is the one running around with the $300,000, handing it out to people that Ledbetter want, Yeah,
the North Alabama PAC that Steve Raby controls has gotten $300K from the Sports Betting Alliance, which is all out of state and in a couple cases out of the country gambling companies. They've also got money from the Porch Creeks. The Porch Creek PAC has donated to the North Alabama PAC, and that North Alabama PAC is playing all over Republican primaries all over the state. And we had Wallen Gavan on. They're playing in her Democrat primary race. And I've got information that they've even played in some municipal races.
So gambling money's being handed out by Raby in county commission races.
Chief Lieutenant of the Speaker, allegedly.
Well, if you're looking for Raby, all you got to do is wait for the speaker to turn around and you can see his feet hanging out of the crack of his rear end. I mean, you've been there for a session. He's like hiding around the corner. So anyway,
I gotta say, I don't have an opponent, Republican or Democrat, either one. So anything you're talking about, I'm not involved in any of that.
Oh, I'm aware. That's so. So let me ask you this. We've all been to Montgomery. I took the damn bar exam at the Renaissance downtown. Back in the day, we all used to go to Jer Beasley's little thing for our CLEs. I've been to 50 damn legislative days for the county commissions up there and all that kind of stuff, right? I've never been assaulted. I've never had a homeless person ask me for anything. Of course, I'm not on Rosa Parks Boulevard on the other side of the interstate either. But does Tommy Tuberville have a point? Should we?
You were here years ago. I'm here now as we speak.
Okay, fair enough.
My door is deadbolted because homeless guys, if we leave it unlocked for our customers, homeless guys will wander in here and start asking for money and whatnot. And it doesn't really bother me, but, with my 83-year-old publisher or, the lady that helps put the newspaper together and does our books are in here by themselves, I don't want them to be confronted by a bunch of stuff. And we had 17 people shot in the streets, this in the last year, just 2 blocks away over there next to the Renaissance, where half the legislature stays when they're down here. I mean, Tim's.
Let me just, I live downtown during the session, and when I'm downtown, we have homeless people and people walking by and people sleeping out on the streets all the time. And I think a lot of the things that need to be controlled right now. Montgomery has about 288 officers, and the study that was done, that at least I've seen, says that they need at least 400 officers. There was a bill that passed the Alabama House that would require the city of Montgomery to expend more funds in order to get the number of officers up to the 400 level, so that, and it gave them time to do it, so that at the end of the day, the people in Montgomery would live in a more safer situation.
But
I think that's a good bill. It passed the House. It did not go through complete. It did not get passed by the Senate.
So isn't this a slippery slope for local governments to have the legislature saying, "Hey, I was down in Dale County And I ran off the road, and it took 30 minutes for a deputy to get there. And, you know, I think they need 40 more deputies. I'm just saying it just seems to me that this is a local issue, and they need to vote. They need to get Joe Reed out of the state and his son out of the mayor's chair.
Well, at the end of the day, I think if the cities are not doing their job, then I think involvement by the legislature is appropriate.
Well, I'm hoping that saber rattling will do it.
And sometimes it does, and sometimes it don't. And I'll give you an example. Back a while back, we introduced a bill that would allow more dentists to be done, and to because they had like 50 dentists that would go through the like a UAB program. But as a result of doing that, they raised the number of dentists from 50 up to 85 that they do each year. And sometimes just introducing a bill does create issues and creates things where action can be taken.
Sure.
And rural Alabama needs dentists. And this is a situation where I guess you can call it saber rattling, but pushing the issue, and as a result of pushing the issue, even though it didn't pass in a bill, it still resulted in 35 more dentists being able to go to dental school.
Sure.
And the same thing applies in Montgomery. You know, I recognize it's a slippery slope. However, sometimes you got to do things in order to encourage action. And the fact that it passed the House and nearly passed the Senate might be a wake-up call to the city of Montgomery, where the city of Montgomery could then turn around and hire more officers, which would then take the pressure off and provide more security for the people in Montgomery. If you do that, if nothing else, just the perception in Montgomery that it would be safer by them hiring more officers. It doesn't always mean it is, but at least that perception is there.
Yes, sir.
And both of y'all are attorneys, and you're aware that local governments are creations of the Alabama state government, specifically the legislature. So all the cities in the state are created by the legislature. In theory, if one got to be lawless or a problem, the legislature could go in and revisit their corporate limits.
That's true, but they also have home rule. You're thinking more like county government that really doesn't have as much authority.
County government get their authority from the legislature. Municipalities, they have the authority to enact ordinance they have, but sometimes we put restrictions on what municipalities can do, and those happen sometimes.
So I'm sorry, keep going.
I do remember, because I covered this when Tim wasn't there then. The legislature de-annexed over 1,000 acres from the city of Argo in St. Clair County and gave it to the city of Trussville in Jefferson County. And I remember the same thing happening over with Bessemer, where they de-annexed over 1,000 acres and gave it to Hoover.
But that was by petition.
Was that a local bill?
I'm sure those were local bills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the legislature has that power. They could, in theory, do that, like give the better section of Montgomery, the Pike Road, if Montgomery can't handle its business.
But I will tell you this, in Winston County, we're the only county like this. There cannot be any local bill passed in Winston County without a vote of the people. We're the only county like that. So if you're raising the coroner's salary from $500 to $9,500 a year, that has to be voted on by the people in Winston County. We're the only county like that. And that gives the authority to the people to vote. And taking away the right to vote, I think, is a critical thing. People want the right to vote. And in Winston County, you absolutely get that right, because every local bill that ever gets passed, it has to be voted on people or it's not valid.
Okay, so this is one of our AG candidates, and she says that Montgomery police staffing is an immediate priority. That's Catherine Robertson. And then, do y'all know Jay? When
I've interviewed Jay. I've interviewed Catherine.
He's on our Supreme Court, or was.
He was.
And then he resigned, and then he
Which
hired.
I think it was honorable. I think it was honorable for him to resign and do that.
Well, and then he hired the worst campaign manager ever. Let's watch this.
You sneak across the border, be prepared to be sent home. Attack law enforcement, get ready to stare down both barrels. And stand with radical Islam, and you can Allah Akbar your butt all the way back to the Middle East. I'm Jay Mitchell. I love Jesus Christ, family, and the great state of Alabama. And you have my word. As Attorney General, I'll fight for him every day.
Woo! Okay.
I agree 100% with everything Jay Mitchell said, but that said, the AG has about as much power as Brandon has of having someone removed from the country.
So, yeah, the federal government does that. We've been watching that all over the place.
We've seen the difference between having a Donald Trump in there and having a Joe Biden in there. It's whatever the president wants ICE to do.
Oh, and by the way, she got $25,000 of the North Alabama PAC money or whatever, just to keep it straight. So anyway, this is what the Republican primary ballot is going to look like in Baldwin County on May 19th.
I hope they're watching on big screen TVs.
And then we got just some of the people that Harry loves. And of course,
the Alabama Gazette has
no position on anything.
Like Nicole Wadsworth, but
the only one that I'm concerned about is the lieutenant governor's race. We need somebody, an economic developer, and Nicole Jones Wadsworth is on the ballot, and I think we need people that are involved in that understand business, and that's the only one I'm concerned about.
Well, and I wish I could turn my camera over here to my wall of bullcrap. Anyway, right over there is I graduated from the Auburn University Economic Development Institute in 1998. So I agree with you. I think having somebody with a brain in their head who understands how, okay, guys, I understand y'all want to do this, but do you understand the cascade of problems that you're going to cause downstream? And let me say this, Tim. I find it refreshing to find a reserved, competent person who is also an attorney that I've never heard anything bad about. That's the highest praise I can give to anyone in the Alabama Legislature. I've never heard it. I've never heard anything bad about you, and I keep my ear to the ground, as Brandon can attest.
I appreciate it.
And of course, I think your wife is a fantastic candidate for the position. All right, Brandon. So tell me what else is going on up in Montgomery.
Well, everybody's focusing on the elections. We're kind of hoping the public at some point starts paying attention. There's a lot of gambling money trying to influence things, through third party PACs and this sort of deal. We got rid of PAC to PAC transfer, but somehow people still manage to do what they want to do with the money, to kind of confuse things up. We're kind of waiting big time for a decision in the Louisiana redistricting case. I think it's going to come too late to impact this election. But there will be a special session at some point if the state of Alabama gets a ruling in that case that's favorable to our own case, because as some of y'all remember, about 2 years ago, the federal court threw out Alabama's congressional redistricting and wrote their own districts. The second district in the first district that's like they racially gerrymandered the two districts, as anybody in Mobile County can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, we got Jerry Carl's got to drive from here to the other side of the state to visit people in his district.
Both districts run literally from the Mississippi line all the way to the Georgia line.
Well, I got to say, I represent 4 counties. I represent Winston, Walker, Jefferson, and Coleman County. It takes me an hour and 45 minutes to go top to bottom in my district, and I'm a House district. And you know, I represent the biggest town in my district is 2,500. The smallest town is 78. And I love representing rural Alabama because I think at the end of the day, there's rural Alabama needs more infrastructure. They need more health care. They need more jobs. Those are all things that are critical that sometimes they get left out. And I think we need to have more people involved that understand rural Alabama.
Absolutely.
But at least with your district, as big as it is, it's very similar. You know, it's similar demographically. It's similar in needs. I mean, similar, you know.
A shrimper in Bayou Battery ain't got jack.
Got everything from inner city.
No, but I tell you what, we went down to Bayou Battery in the campaign and met with the folks down there, and that is the nicest group of people in Bayou Battery. It's you kind of think it would be a bunch of condos and all that, since it's down about as far south and far west as you can get. But that is a great group of people.
That's hard-working shrimping people. Hard-working shrimpers.
Absolutely, and they work hard, and they're very, very nice people.
But they ain't got nothing in common with a farmer in the wiregrass except diesel fuel. I mean, you know, everybody's pissed about diesel fuel being expensive. I guess they'll have that in common. But anyway, I agree with you, Brandon. And just think about this. All of this is predicated on there being Ku Klux Klan and a bunch of racists wanting to disenfranchise people. And why in the world would we run the CIA playbook that's being run in Virginia right now? You know, that's Tuberville's called for redistricting like they've done in Virginia. Are y'all aware of that? Y'all see?
Yeah, I'm not aware of that.
Anyway, the governor of Virginia just
wants it back what it was before the federal government stepped in.
Well, and
I don't think anybody wants to get rid of entirely the majority-minority district that Terry Sewell represents. But, you know, they had to bend over sideways in order to create the district that Shamari Figures now represents.
This is true.
And I like Shamari. He's a nice guy. But, you know, I don't think he knows anything about wiregrass, peanut farmers or...
which is a quarter of them.
Yeah, which is a third of the district.
And I think at the end of the day, whoever is elected, they don't just represent one side or the other. They represent 5.1 million people.
Absolutely.
And they've got whoever goes in, whatever race they're in, they have to represent every single person, and they should do, because everybody's opinions are all different, and you just got to you represent everybody. And that, if you can't do that, you don't need to be running for office.
Well, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, Representative Wadsworth. Brandon, you have a good weekend, and everybody go celebrate Confederate Memorial Day, and don't hang your head about it.
Well, thank y'all for allowing me to sit in on part of y'all's conversation, but also be able to speak a little bit about some different issues. And I thank y'all for sharing the news is important, and basically at the end of the day, having unbiased news is the most important thing in today's environment, because we don't always have that in Alabama, in the state of Alabama, and also nationally. And so I do like the fact that everybody's opinion matters.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for your time. Everybody have a good weekend.
You too. Y'all have a good evening.
high on a promise he sold, but his truth's been bought and his soul's been told. He don't walk alone down that courthouse hall, got shadows that move when he makes a call, a whisper here, a favor there, and suddenly justice ain't nowhere. You can hear it humming underneath the street where power and silence meet. Oh, the machine don't bleed, don't cry, don't care. It feeds on fear and the deals they share, pulling every string in the dead of night, turning wrong to right, turning black to white. If you stand in the way, you'll disappear clean. Ain't no fighting back when you face their machine. Got henchmen lined like dominoes in a row. They don't ask why, they just go where it goes. A nod from the top and a life gets crushed. Another voice bared, another file hushed. They wear the loyalty like a second skin, trading their conscience just to fit in. Break a man down, call it law and order, build their empire at the county border. Every favor owed is a chain that binds, every truth buried buys more time. Oh, the machine don't bleed, don't cry, don't care. It feeds on fear and the deals they share, pulling every string in the dead of night, turning wrong to right, turning black to white. If you stand in the way, you'll disappear clean. Ain't no fighting back when you face their machine. The district attorney signs with a steady hand, but the ink's been stained by a deeper plan. Senators smile from the polished stage while they trade your life for another page. County seats filled with familiar names, all tied together in a quiet game. Handshakes tighter than a noose can be, wrapped in power and immunity. And the victims cry, but no one hears. The truth gets lost in a flood of years, dragged through the mud till they break a bend, till the story twists and the lies all win. They'll take your name, they'll take your breath, dress it up nice and call it justice served to death. It's not one man, it's a web they weave, 1,000 hands that deceive, and every thread leads back again to the same old circle of friends. Oh, the machine don't bleed, don't cry, don't care. It feeds on fear and the deals they share, pulling every string in the dead of night, turning wrong to right, turning black to white. And if you speak too loud, if you're seen too clean, they'll grind you down in that cold machine. So the bat still shines in the morning light, and the town sleeps easy every night. But beneath it all, where the truth's unseen, there's a whole damn world run by that machine.